Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. We are about to have a short talk on non-toxic or pet-safe indoor plants. It is a very important topic because although we do love our indoor plants, I think that most of us would say that we love our furry family members and the vulnerable that may be eating plants even more so. And there's no reason to jeopardize your loved ones by bringing toxic plants into the house unknowingly. And perhaps after this class, you may realize that you do have some toxic plants indoors within reach that maybe have never been an issue and never will be an issue. And unless you get a new animal, for example, a new pet, a new animal, or a new introduction to the household, it's always a good idea to then kind of reintroduce yourself or refamiliarize yourself with what you may have, the various toxicity of those plants, and move them, while you kind of get familiar with the tendencies of the new family member, whether they sample plants or have no interest in them. It's always just a good idea to start fresh when somebody new comes into the house. The majority of the indoor plants that we grow, and I would say a lion's share of the most popular indoor plants, have varying degrees of toxicity. And really when we start talking about the toxicity of indoor plants, it's fair to break them down into a couple of different levels of toxicity and kind of talk about that, because of course there are things that may be toxic to humans in high quantities, or toxic to animals in high quantities, but in low quantities might just give you a stomach ache or make you vomit, which of course would get rid of the toxic element in the first place. And so understanding again the range of toxicity is something that we're going to cover. Then we're going to kind of highlight some of our favorite non-toxic plants for various lighting conditions. And as I frequently mention in these classes, Dennis 70s is always building out our resources that we have available on our website. But at the moment still there is the best resource that we have found that's not our own is houseplant.com, houseplant411.com. So there will be a handout attached to this class as a blog, and the website for Houseplant 411 is also mentioned in the blog article. But that website really breaks down a lot of information about our favorite houseplants, including their toxicity. And similar to the staff at Dennis 70s, the Houseplant 411 site really defers the information back to the authorities, which would be the ASPCA and the website by the ASPCA, which the ASPCA site really defines toxicity by the animal. So there's cat toxicity versus dog versus horse, and I think even rabbit. So when we're talking about pets, you probably don't have horses inside your house. If you do, I'm jealous. But it's important to kind of know what it is that what creature or human it is that we're worried about, and which type of plant we may be concerned with, so that we can start getting into the specific details. So with that said, there's always the chance for an allergic reaction to any plant, toxic or non-toxic. Just individual allergic tendencies, would always be one of those caveats to what we're about to say. And so if there's ever concern, then of course consult your veterinarian or call the Poison Control Center, and ideally already have the name of the plant in question, so that when you can speak to that medical professional, you can let them know what specifically has been ingested, so that they can know how toxic and again, know the best course of action. So when we talk about levels of toxicity, we're going to break it down to 4 different levels. So level 1 toxicity would be houseplants with low toxicity, and they may be mildly irritating, especially the sap or juices of the plant. Examples are snake plant, very popular, very easy to grow, well-known plant that we love to promote and sell. Snake plants should be out of reach of pets so that they don't tend to chew on it, but just a tiny taste from a snake plant's not likely to, cause mortal failure, or, mortal organ failure or, death to the animal. House plants. The fiddle leaf fig, I have a little baby fiddle leaf fig here. Fiddle leaf fig, or kind of more old-fashioned Ficus benjamina, the weeping fig. Both of these would be considered in that level 2 toxicity, as well as the mighty monstera. So just examples again of level 2. Level 3, these are houseplants that are very poisonous. Level 3 plants, when eaten, especially in large quantities, can cause severe vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pains, skin irritation, and breathing difficulties. Examples of level 3 toxic plants would be anthuriums, caladiums. Here's a lovely anthurium. There's a lovely anthurium here showing us an example of level 3 toxicities. We want to keep this out of reach of our beloveds. And level 4, which would be the most extreme toxicity. These plants are extremely poisonous. Eating even parts or small quantities of these houseplants can be life-threatening. And the two, again, very popular examples of the level 4 toxicity would be our favorite super easy ZZ. So ZZ plants, high, extremely toxic. And then another great example of high toxicity are Dieffenbachias, or dumb canes. And this is a gorgeous camouflage Dieffenbachia right here. So again, extremely poisonous or extremely toxic. Now, before I go into the more pet-safe plants, I want to kind of show some ways that we can overcome toxicity in the house, or if we have these plants and now we realize that they are toxic, depending again on how much access the animal or someone has in your house, how tall they are, or how much height they can reach. You could use raised up containers. So we have some really fun planters that have legs. So a little raised container, we can take our Dieffenbachia and set it in the raised container, and it's now a little over 2 feet off the ground. So if we were really concerned about a cat, for example, or a smaller dog, they wouldn't necessarily have the ability to reach this plant to be able to have access to the foliage to be injured. And then of course we also have a lot of really fun, here's a great handmade, local handmade macrame that is able to hang your plants and keep them again out of reach of any little fingers or teeth that want to sample them. And if macrame is not your style, we have lots of different media. So this is a plant hanger that's made out of leather, which again gives you a little bit more contemporary look, but keeps those toxic plants nice and high and safe from anybody or anything that might want to snack on it. So there are ways around, of course, I have another cool one. There are ways around all of these toxic plants if you want to still have them in your house. This is a really cute one for the anthurium. Just drop it right in there. Oops. And that's nice and stable too. So, if you've got a tail that wags around that endangers plants and things, this would be another safe vessel to keep your plant safe as well as keep your pet safe. And so once we get into, really talking about these, you'll start looking around and realizing that quite a few of maybe the plants that you've been collecting are on one of the various levels of toxicity. that's, like I said, that's okay. Maybe you just reevaluate where they sit and where they live in the house to vary the access that your house members have to them. When we look at non-toxic plants, there still is a wide range of non-toxic plants that we can safely have in our homes, on coffee tables, windowsills, and places where our animals have direct access to them. So we want to go through a few of those because, because I've got them all behind me. So first off, for bright light. Some of our favorites for bright light, non-toxic, include bromeliads and Hoyas. So I just brought in this really great bromeliad here, which bromeliads are related to pineapples. And so the foliage on bromeliads often has some stiffness to it, sometimes even a little bit of a toothed edge. And some bromeliads are more grown for their foliage, so like this beautiful striped variety. And some other bromeliads are grown more for a colorful flower that comes out of the center of the plant that lasts a long time. Bright light is best on bromeliads, so that is one of our top for bright light. And then Hoya does great in bright light, and Hoya is a little bit more of a viney plant. So you could have Hoya either sitting on a shelf or a windowsill and let it spill over, or you could give Hoya a hanger, and sometimes even the little vining trailing parts will climb and twine around the hanger that you give them. So Hoyas are, again, easy care. They're watered somewhat regularly, but allowed to dry out in between, kind of a thicker succulent leaf. And many different varieties of Hoya produce flowers that are kind of interesting, and some are quite fragrant. So Hoyas are fun also. Bright light will help you produce a flower from a Hoya, so they're fun. The indirect bright light, so kind of next level down from bright light, indirect bright light has probably, no matter what, whether we're looking at toxic plants or non-toxic plants, the most plant category for light is in this indirect bright light. So a lot of plants love this light condition, and that includes African violets, which are a nice flowering, non-toxic house plant for indirect bright light. Spider plants, which I've got a couple of just really cute, fun spider plants. Here we've got a curly spider plant. So most of us are familiar with these hanging in long, drooping, variegated leaves. This one has kind of a tight recurve on all of the leaves, and even the stem itself has a little curly, cute nature to them. So there are ranges of spider plants, and this could either be a sitting plant or a hanging plant, so you have options there. And then the curly spider plant has sort of an opposite version. So this spider plant, this is a Chlorophytum comosum, and this has the larger, thicker leaves, not much of the striping variegation, but a little bit of a bigger, bolder profile. Might look a little bit better hanging than resting, but just, when you think you've seen all the spider plants, there's even just a range of spider plants themselves. Great for indirect bright light and pet safe. Most palms are also great for indirect bright light and pet safe. I've got a ponytail palm here, also known as a bottle palm. So we can see kind of the bulbous bottom of the palm and then developing these fun little fronds. Now it's good that this palm is pet safe, because this is the kind of texture that is just like begging to be chewed on by most indoor animals that are just kind of, they're vegetation starved or whatever. So taking this home, my cats would just guaranteed chew on the leaf tips, and so just because it doesn't harm the animal doesn't mean that it doesn't kind of detract from the overall beauty or look of the plant. So even if you find that you've got a ponytail palm at home and it's getting eaten by a pet, it might be a good idea to just lift it up or move it so that the plant can live a little bit without being constantly chewed on. The fern world also has a wide representation of non-toxic plants. So Boston ferns, kind of the, old standby parlor fern or, bathroom fern. Kangaroo paw fern is also a non-toxic. There's a kind of a young kangaroo paw showing its little rhizome that crawls along the soil surface. Kangaroo paw is non-toxic, and so is the staghorn fern. So another really wonderful, easy care plant. The fern that is not truly a fern, that often we grow indoors, is the asparagus fern. The asparagus fern is actually in the asparagus family, and so asparagus fern is on one of the lower toxicity levels, but still I wouldn't consider an asparagus fern a fern. So when you really start thinking about breaking down non-toxic versus toxic plants, always make sure that you know the botanical name, which will help you to decipher whether or not it really is safe. Polka dot plant, we're still in indirect bright light. Polka dot plants are so colorful that again with brighter light you'll get better color from them. We have a pink hippo rose, polka dot plant, hippo red, so a pink one, a red one. These are great, and again non-toxic, somewhat low growing, so a good tabletop type plant. Lipstick, where's my lipstick? Well, I don't have a lipstick. Goldfish, so lipstick plants, goldfish plants. Oh, here's a little variegated lipstick. That is what I got. So, and then peperomias and pileas. Now they are definitely in a category of plants that are kind of popular right now, being collected and shared a lot. We've got, these are 3 different peperomias. So the marble, of course, this little teardrop form, and then showing this lovely, almost watermelon striping on this guy. All of these are easy care plants. Allow them to dry out quite a bit between watering. They thrive in that indirect bright light, and they're never going to get huge. So they're again a great like tabletop plant, bookshelf type plant that's not going to overwhelm you with size. Fittonia or nerve plant. So lots of these have some great colors. Nerve plant's another one that grows low and spreading. Often we see the nerve plant in terrariums and things, so it's one for a little bit higher humidity, but comes in a range of colors with that fun marbling or veining on the leaves. So the nerve plant also bright light, pet safe, and prayer plants. So again, we have all of this great veining, striping, polka dotting, all really without relying on a color from flower yet. So lots of great foliage to play with, in spite of the fact that you're somewhat limiting yourself if you're trying to stick to non-toxic plants. But we still have a lot to choose from. And then after prayer plant, calatheas. So calatheas, which are closely related to prayer plants. Calatheas are definitely one of the plant categories that are seeing a lot of popularity on Instagram and social pages, and you can see why. So this is a Calathea ornata, just beautiful. Again, that pink striping on the leaves, great big paddle-shaped leaves. This one's a little heavier. But if you could feel the velvet on the backside, you can at least see the color, but the burgundy backsides of this Calathea are velvety soft. So again, a nice, could even be a nice floor plant, and this in a little plant stand would give you some height to show it off in the house if you needed something a little bit taller. But varieties of Calathea can be left alone with your pets, and again, everyone will be fine in the end. And then money trees or money plants, which again, indirect bright light and pet safe or non-toxic. Now for medium light, Again, you can go into quite a few ferns, take medium light versus that indirect bright light. And grape ivies, or the cissus family, also do well in this medium light. So this little mascot we have trailing down, this large leafed cissus is related to the grape ivy and is a trailing plant or can climb if you give it a little something to climb. The plant can grow quite quickly, so it's one of those that you can almost watch grow, similar to like a monstera. And its smaller leafed kind of cousin is the more traditional grape leaf ivy, and that is right here, kind of brought up onto a trellis to give it some height and help it spread out. But this could also be grown in a basket, or mine is like up on a high, like armoire type shelf where it just kind of spilled over on its own. This one we don't see. This is a little bit, the grape ivy is kind of an older, old-fashioned plant. We don't see it around too much, but it's starting to get renewed popularity with all of the interest in growing houseplants, so it's nice to see diversity always. And then for low light, you know, that's one of the hardest for pet safe, is low light. And the reason is that a lot of our go-to plants for low light are amongst the toxicity, the toxic plant list. So our snake plants often are go-tos for low light, and that is toxic. The ZZ plants are another one that we go to for low light, and that is also toxic to pets. So really for low light, our favorite and best plant is the cast iron plant. And this is a variety of cast iron that has polka dots or speckles on the leaves. This is a cultivar called Milky Way. But cast iron plants also come in solid green. There's a couple of different versions of them, and they, true to their name, are tough as nails. So not only do they grow in low light, they have low needs as far as watering goes. They're very easy keepers, and very hard to damage or destroy, just like a cast iron pan. And so this would be definitely your pet safe go-to for low light. Now, again, more detailed information can be found on that Houseplant 411 site or on the ASPCA website. But many of the plants that we know and love, some of our beginner plants like the philodendron or the pothos, like I mentioned, our ficuses, even aloe. So aloe has level 1 toxicity, but as you look around and as you learn a little bit more, you realize that quite a few of the plants that we grow have 1 degree of toxicity or another, and that really does apply to the outside world as well. So a lot of the plants that we kind of know and love in our gardens, from hydrangeas and azaleas down to lilies that grow outside, they all have varying degrees of toxicity to our pets or our humans. And so, you know, it's rare that we have instances of animal and plant poisoning, I believe, and so it's always wiser to, you know, get to know your pet or get to know your child or your human that you're worried about, and know their tendencies and their personality, so that you can better gauge or evaluate the risk factors and proactively either, you know, remove those plants from the environment, lift them into areas that are not accessible, or give them all away, and then, you know, repopulate your house plants with all the ones that are on the non-toxic list. Again, your handout that comes along with the class will be posted with the blog, with the video, and tons more information as far as specifics can be found on the various sites that we make reference to. If you do have specific questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. We also have quite a few products for plant care, indoor plant care, that we recommend here at the Garden Center, and the majority of them also are pet safe and non-toxic or organic, if you want to, you know, look at it that way. And that includes things like the mosquito bits that we recommend to treat fungus gnat problems. This is pet safe and a biological active ingredient, so it's a bacillus strain that kills mosquito larvae. And then of course our 2 liquid fertilizer lines that we love for indoor plants, the all-purpose and the high grow. These are fish-based. You add them into water and then water into the plants about every week or 2 weeks, and that's gonna give them a nice boost of organic nutrition. And then Joyful Dirt, which is again kind of packaged and meant for indoor plant growing. This is all organic, non-toxic fertilizer that has some probiotics in it as well, and it is easy to apply in dry form as a little shaker applicator on top. You can really just tap and shake it onto the soil surface and then water the plant afterwards, or the Joyful Dirt can be added to water and then watered into the plants for them to have a little bit more liquid delivery. All of these would be safe and fine if then, your pet stepped into the soil or tried to eat some of the soil or something like that. And then some of my floor plants, I find one of my cats likes to get in and try to dig in the dirt. And so I have found that using a layer of mulch on top of the soil on those floor plants can help reduce the amount of digging and maybe them laying down in the pot or whatever it is. And I use hazelnut shells. So we sell cracked hazelnut shells here at the garden center, and they have a little bit of a sharp edge that cats don't especially seem to like to walk on. And so that has kind of put an end to cats digging in or sleeping in the containers of my floor plants. Other than that, if you have any other problems that I might be able to share my solutions, please let us know in the comments. Again, pet safe is important for all of us while we learn to love more and more houseplants. So thanks for watching.